graphical user interfaces, and I think it's important to talk a little bit about UI and UX design. UI means user interface. It's how we lay the screens out. How do they look and feel? What's the aesthetics of them? While user experience, UX, relates more to how the user uses our product. Do they use it in an intuitive way? Does it meet their needs? That's the difference between UI and UX. Let me demonstrate the importance of good user interface. We'll talk about user experience more down the road. But with our simple program of the corporate logos, I gave you an interface design that has 6 buttons on the left-hand side, and then a picture box or label to display the logos of each of these 6 companies and the company name and their location. So if we click the Adobe, we get the Adobe logo. We're told Adobe Systems, located in San Jose. There's ASUS, Dell, Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, and South Mountain Community College. And the bottom line is, does your program work? When we talk about programming and coding, that's the essential part. Does it work? But that's really only half the picture, because the other half is, does the program look good and feel good, and is it easy to use? Let me show you another example of the same program. So here's the same program, slightly smaller design, but we have the same 6 buttons that show the logos and tell us the name of the company and where they're located. So they both work. They both do the same thing. But the question is, which would you rather use, and which, as a client, would you say, I'm going to come back to this company and have them create my next product for me? Which would you rather buy in the store? So the UI UX is sort of that first impression that we make, and it's so important. Now, there's so much stuff that's wrong with this. If you compare these two, you want to be consistent. That's the number one thing, I think, is to be consistent. Notice the margins that are maintained here on the left versus the right. Here we have the picture box right up against the margins. Think of when you're writing a document in Microsoft Word. You want to maintain good margins. All the buttons here are aligned and are the same size. The buttons here are not aligned. They're not the same size, not even the same shape. The fonts that are used here are several. Just because you have the ability to use 6 different fonts doesn't mean you should. You want to maintain that design and use a font that's easy to read. So readability is an important part of the UI and the UX. Notice here that the logo, the company name, and the location are all centered here together. They all look tied together. Here they do not. In fact, the picture box or the label that's used to display the logo, in these cases, it really doesn't fit very well. It's not sized to the size of those logos. And in this case, I used an older logo for South Mountains. When you make sure working with companies and their branding, make sure you're always using the most recent branding information that they have and using their colors. Notice that here, when I choose SMCC, I've actually misspelled South Mountain Community College. Boy, that's a quick way to lose a client or to get dismissed from a company you're working for. Notice it also doesn't say South Mountain Community College. It's not wide enough to display the word college, as this one is. That's another faux pas that will cause you to lose a client. The location and the company don't look like they're tied together very well here. Where here you can see there's just an association with proximity of the company name and the location along with the logo. So those are some things to look at. Look at alignment, look at readability, look being consistent in your sizing, maintaining a margin, and making images look good. We live in a visual age. One thing I often see happens with this particular assignment is we're using an image list, and sometimes people bring in the images, but they don't size them for 250 by 250, which is the size of our logo. They leave it at 16 by 16, and they're very small in the picture box or label, and they don't set the color depth to 24-bit, or if they have transparency 32-bit. If you leave it as 256 colors or 8-bit, you're going to get this really rastered look. So those are some things to look for as you're designing and putting things together. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the C# Xamarin Programming Cohort playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.